Hello, everyone. Amanda Chambers here. This is my dissertation PowerPoint that I've created. So this is our UNE DSW800 class and the introduction to my dissertation. I have included my title. I am an LCSW, and future thinking, I am hoping to continue to be a DSW candidate. So, my agenda in this presentation is to introduce my topic, give you guys a little bit of information about me as the researcher, discuss what is being studied, some keywords and themes that I've picked out of the information that I've gathered, a brief discussion on what we know so far, and then I'm going to share my conclusion and some references that I have. So, this is introducing the topic. I am planning to examine mental health in rural communities. Just a side note, all of the images used are my personal property. This is one taken out over a potato field at sunrise. For my dissertation project, I've chosen to look at research correlating community based mental health interventions and the rate of institutional mental health care utilization. So, essentially, the goal of my literature review, I'm planning a mixed methods data project to really explore that connection between levels of care and to talk about a direction for future study. I know that my research is going to be limited just by the nature of being in a rural, less densely populated area. I'm not expecting to get a large sample size in the work that I'm doing. I am hopefully expecting to be able to identify some preliminary patterns that could be studied more later. So this is me. I am a rural social worker. This is my 16th year in the social work field. I've built my career on social work leadership. I just wanted to throw a brief note in here that I'm also hoping to break into academia at the end of attaining my DSW. I have worked to identify many gaps in my local community and have also worked to fill some of those. I have recognized that there are both micro and macro work social change that are needed, and how we're all kind of part of addressing that. I've always believed in the social justice mandate of our code of ethics. That's really at the heart of the work that I do. I've worked in many systems and seen systemic marginalization, both in pre and post COVID, if we can even call what we have now a post COVID era. I have worked in my community of origin, looking at mental health service delivery, looking at crises and breakdowns and levels of care. So ultimately, what I'm passionate about is bridging that gap for effective, efficient, and adequate and appropriate mental health services. So, what is being studied? So, I want to see the connection between if we utilize community-based mental health services, how that impacts rates of hospitalization and using more institutional levels of care. I'm hoping that I continue to gather information about evidence based, community based interventions, and I'll be able to talk about some of the work that I've done with that as I move forward. I really have looked at some meta analyses that address, where are issues and gaps in mental health service delivery. And again, I'm looking to study this all within the context of rural communities, and I'm really hoping to look for some effective, efficient treatment models that are able to positively impact community mental health. So, here are some themes I've come up with in the research that I've done. What community based mental health interventions are like, institutional based mental health services, really looking at what does holistic mental health look like, issues specifically addressed with rural living, what the societal burden is of mental health, looking at the ease of access of services, service delivery gaps, and then some of the data which they're considering pre and post COVID era. So these are just a few of the studies that I found. There were 10 years of data studied by Farmer and his group in 2021. that looked at, where are rurally located people accessing their mental health supports, what service levels are available to them. Globally, some of the grassroots efforts, there was a meta-analysis conducted in Asia in the early 2020s that they just took a giant grid and they plugged in how communities supported each other and what levels of care were being utilized. In addition, the Benziv study from 2020 actually compared the two. What happens as an outcome for community-based intervention versus center-based intervention, and kind of what the implications of that data was, even though that was a modestly sized study. So I want you to think of this image as I go into my conclusion. There's really a lot of unknowns right now. We're all feeling that pressure locally, and as a country and globally in some cases. We know that gaps in mental health service delivery can be wide. Bridging those gaps, I like the imagery of the slide of the stairs going up, as the metaphor for how accomplished it can feel when you're reaching the top of that. That's actually from Sand Beach and Bar Harbor, that imagery. But that metaphor of when we get to the top and we've made a difference. I just really am working hard in this research. I don't want to discredit the role of societal, community, individual resilience, and even resiliency within our field right now. Obviously, we can't answer all of the research questions through our projects, but there's a lot to be said for those who have rallied to support their fellow neighbor. So that's kind of the brief introduction to my topic. And on this last slide are the three studies that I used, in addition to the social justice mandate straight out of the NASW Code of Ethics. I just want to thank you guys as my colleagues for supporting me as we support each other on this journey.